guys hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, Matt, we can hear you. Thank you, council member.
Welcome to Boulder City Council meeting. We appreciate everybody coming, and we will begin with the call of order and confirmation of roll call. Madam City Clerk.
Yes, thank you. The agenda was posted in accordance with Nevada open meeting law, and we have Council Member Matt Fox on the phone line, and all other members are present in the council chamber.
Thank you. We will now have Pastor Todd Kent offer the invocation for us, and those who can, please arise. We'll stay standing for the pledge after that.
Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for your great love for us. Lord, you've demonstrated your love in so many ways. And Lord, you've called us to humble ourselves and acknowledge who you are, and that, Lord, that true wisdom comes from you. Lord, you've told us not only to ask, but to continue to ask, to seek, and that we will find, Lord, if we seek you with all of our heart. Lord, we ask that you would prevail here in your wisdom and, Lord, just a gentle spirit of deferring to one another, listening to one another. And God, we just ask that you would be honored in everything that happens here tonight in these proceedings. We lift up those that you put in positions of authority, and God, ask that you would fill them with your spirit, a spirit of wisdom and knowledge and understanding. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. We will have the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the agenda, we have what we call public announcements, and we have 4 public announcements, proclamation, and then 3 other public announcements. In our public announcements, I would be very surprised if people didn't clap. We normally don't clap in city council, but I don't think we can hold back the pride and the love that we have for people who will be recognized this evening. I will start off with the proclamation. City of Boulder City Proclamation, Office of the Mayor. Disability Pride Month is an opportunity to honor the history, achievements, experiences, and struggles of the disability community. And whereas the 2024 theme of Disability Pride Month is, quote, "We want a life like yours," unquote, the theme comes from the ARCS, National Council of Self-Advocates, and reflects the disability community's dreams for life experiences that they are too often denied. And whereas Disability Pride Month parallels the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, 33rd anniversary, culminating decades of disability rights advocacy. And whereas people with disabilities have faced social stigmas and judgment for centuries, and the development and establishment of Disability Pride Month closely intertwines with the civil rights movement. And whereas our global population is gaining awareness and celebrating people with disabilities, diverse experiences, and societal integration, the signing of the ADA provided a rallying point for the community to demand full inclusion in society. And whereas the ADA outlines provisions for increased accessibility to physical infrastructure and encourages employers to ensure work environments accommodate individuals with disabilities, from wheelchair ramps and unique treatments to service animals. And now, therefore, I, Joe Hardy, Mayor of Boulder City, Nevada, hereby proclaim the month of July 2024 as Disability Pride Month in Boulder City, and encourage all residents to celebrate, raise awareness, and highlight voices during this month, but fostering inclusion and celebrating diversity should be a daily part of our lives. Signed, Joe Hardy, Mayor. Thank you all. This is Boulder City. We care. We will now have other proclamations. First off, we will have Councilwoman Booth.
Can I call Phoebe up?
You can do whatever you want.
I have a special recognition here. If I can have Phoebe come up. I've known Phoebe since she was in second grade. She's the funniest child you ever met. And she's grown up to be this beautiful young woman that I just love. And we're presenting this to her for outstanding achievement in the winning state title in the 200-yard freestyle, 500-yard freestyle, and being named 3A Swimmer of the Year. Amazing woman.
Thank you, Phoebe. And we will now go to Councilman Walton.
I'm sorry, Aiden, you're not gonna get the same treatment. Aiden Brown. Come on up, buddy. And you wanna bring somebody with you? You wanna bring a parent, a grandparent, a friend, anybody? No? I saw somebody want to come up, so. Come on up, come on.
That's a command performance, by the way.
There you go. All right, we are here with Aiden and his dad, Matt Brown, and we're recognizing Aiden for outstanding achievements in qualifying for the 2024 National Junior High Finals Rodeo for the city of There you go.
Take the Post-it note.
You can do whatever you want. Councilwoman Sherry Jorgensen is going to be very creative in this announcement.
When you're not given the kids, which is fine, because then you can't really kiss Public Works. But I'm absolutely happy to say, Public Works, if you could please stand up. This certificate of appreciation is presented to you. Jim, are you the only one?
Two more.
Oh, Pat, you're already standing, so it's okay. This is presented to you in grateful recognition for all that you did to contribute to the sign. I'm sure many of you saw it when you come into this beautiful city that is representative of Boulder City High School, honoring all the championships, as we just talked about for today, and achievements for Boulder City High School. And our Public Works had a big part in it. We have a little puzzle up here piece, because it took many puzzle pieces to make that work, and you were part of it, and we appreciate it and want to say thank you.
And with that, we now will move to administration of, oh yeah, get a picture with that.
Okay, yeah, sorry. We need to
We're all going down there.
Oh, we all
Yeah.
go, okay. Because we're all proud of them. Congratulations. Yeah.
I think this guy should. To make it look small.
All right, thank you.
And then we have administration of oath of office. And we have, there he comes. Chief?
I'm going to do something real quick before I swing around and do the oath. I found this this morning, and so I wanted to kind of read it. And before I start, I want to thank you guys for giving us the time to do this. I feel it's necessary to do this in front of you, as well as our public, to be able to do swearing-ins and especially badge pinnings. This is a big moment for these guys, and a proud moment for me, especially doing so many at one time here. So it's awesome. But I noted this morning. I kind of thought it was fitting for today. But so real quick, nobody gives you the title of firefighter or captain or chief. You earn it. Nobody gives you the respect it brings. You earn it. Nobody gives you the seat on that rig. You earn it. So congratulations, you've earned it. For you three and you two as well. With that, go ahead and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jason Ellis,
Do solemnly swear to support, protect, and defend.
do solemnly swear to support, protect,
And defend.
and defend. Might be a little harder.
The Constitution and government of the United States.
The Constitution and government of the United States.
And the Constitution and government of the state of Nevada.
And the Constitution and government of the state of Nevada.
Against all enemies, whether domestic or foreign.
Against all enemies, whether domestic or foreign.
And will bear true faith, allegiance, and loyalty to the same.
And will bear true faith, allegiance, and loyalty to the same.
Good job. Any ordinance, resolution, or law of any state notwithstanding. Okay, hold on. Any ordinance,
Any ordinance,
resolution,
resolution,
or law of any state
or law of any state
notwithstanding.
notwithstanding.
Rookies. And will well and faithfully
And will well and faithfully
perform all the duties of the office of firefighter,
perform all the duties of the office of firefighter,
on which I am about to enter, so help me God,
in which I am about to enter, so help me God.
under the pains and penalties of perjury.
Under the pains and penalties of perjury.
Congratulations. So with that, I get Captain Whitworth and Chief Barone to come up too, real quick. So first, we'll do the pinning for paramedic firefighter Tullis. Next will be paramedic firefighter Jones.
Tullis, get back here. I don't want them to fall out, so if you could keep them, please.
Next will be paramedic firefighter Hubbard. Next will be our newest captain, Captain Jimmy Whitworth. And last will be Assistant Fire Chief Josh Brome.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you.
You're not done. We got a photo coming
Yes, sir.
with all of them. Let's go ahead.
You gotta get in there too, Chief.
Is it a football?
Squeeze you in just a little bit. And I'm gonna go ahead and take one right here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I'm good.
We're beyond that. We're beyond that.
While people are taking advantage of this, I'll say what a sweet moment it is when family can pin the person who's the paramedic or the firefighter. They've all invested in that calling, I'll call it. We appreciate the family's involvement tonight. Thank you all. We will now open public comment for the items that are on the agenda. So if you have something that you would like to say, anybody can come forward and say anything that they would like pertaining to items on the agenda. Take 5 minutes if you would. And if you want to call in, it's 702-589-9629. And go ahead, come forward and identify yourself and tell us what you'd like.
My name is Kendra Howard, Kendra, Howard, Howard. I am addressing agenda item 11B. I have lived in Boulder City for the past 12 years and am a hard of hearing resident who uses hearing aids and communicates primarily by speech reading. The ADA is of personal importance to me and prompted me to address agenda item 11B and the council discussion of the recruitment process in selecting a new city manager. I asked the city council to selectively choose a knowledgeable recruiting firm that will prioritize ADA expertise and is capable of identifying potential candidates with the necessary qualifications and competencies to effectively manage ADA compliance and address accessibility issues here in Boulder City. Beyond addressing the immediate hiring need, the right recruiting firm will consider city manager candidates committed to implementing the Accessible BC Working Group recommendation that address the diverse needs of all residents, including those with hearing impairments. The World Health Organization has projected that over the next 25 years, 1 in every 10 people will have a disabling hearing loss. That statistic is particularly concerning for Boulder City. As an aging community, that number could be significantly higher. Acting City Manager Michael Mays has done an excellent job implementing Accessible BC Working Group recommendations. It is crucial to now seek and hire a city manager who will continue to advocate and advance these initiatives as well as address other ADA challenges our city faces. I am hopeful that our city and its residents can continue to work together in implementing changes that not only enhance the quality of life, but promote awareness and support for individuals with disabilities. In addition, I would like to thank you, Mayor Hardy, and members of the City Council for proclaiming July 26th as a commemoration of the Americans with Disabilities Act. This recognition acknowledges the importance of the ADA and highlights our city's commitment to ensuring inclusion for all residents, promotes equal opportunity, and cultivates a more accessible community for all Boulder City residents. Thank you.
Thank you. You're okay.
Good evening. My name's Kristen Jordan. I've lived here for 3 years in Boulder City. The proclamation read today is important since it sets the city's mission in Agenda 10. Number 10 is important since it discusses the hiring of the new city manager. During the interview process for the new city manager, it must be stressed that the individual that is hired understands how important access and safety are and is available to implement those conditions. The person must be qualified to run a city that is accessible and safe for people with disabilities. The city manager should be the captain of that mission and immediately activate recommendation number 3. The city should make as a priority code enforcement, traffic enforcement of ADA regulations relate to encourage permits, handicap parking, violations, motorcycle parking, blocking crosswalks, and access ramps. The new city manager Brown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, evening, whatever it is. My name is Dr. Valerie McNay, leader of the Boulder City branch of the American Association of University Women, 30-year resident of Boulder City, special education director in public schools and universities for 52 years, and advocate for my disabled sibling for 60 years. And I just want to comment on agenda item number 11B, I guess, about the city manager. And clearly, Boulder City's embarked on a very serious search for a new city manager. And the city's Accessible BC Task Force, most of them are here, recommended that the city designate a staff person to address community-wide Americans with Disabilities Act issues. And I always have to say the whole thing because ADA, a lot of people don't know what ADA means, so I have to say the whole thing, Americans with Disabilities Act. And so I think that search for a new city manager should have strong emphasis on knowledge of the American with Disabilities Act, and city manager candidates should be able to address issues impacting access and safety for code enforcement and police enforcement from the start. ADA access issues should be handled by the city manager as one of her or his important tasks. So thank you, Mayor and City Council members, for this opportunity to comment on agenda number 11B.
Thank you.
Hi there. Oh, am I on? Yes, this is Pat Murphy, and I think you know how to spell it. And I want to first thank you guys for the proclamation. I think that's extremely important to hear that the city is recommitting to reaching full ADA compliance, which is part of the language of the proclamation. I too am here to address agenda item 11B, the hiring of a city manager. And I'm the only one up here, but I'm speaking on behalf of the people who train regularly at Parks and Rec at the functional fitness class. Since you really don't want to hear from all 30 of us one by one. And I'm not shy about public speaking, so they appointed me. Anyway, everyone in the class is working out so that we can either get in shape or stay in shape. Some are recovering from injuries using canes, walkers, and wheelchairs. Some, like me, are aware that we're only one blown knee away from using a cane, a chair, or a walker. Every one of us has had issues with access and more importantly, I think, the enforcement of access-related laws in Boulder City. I think that's the low-hanging fruit that you can start with. Parking in handicapped spots, blocking crosswalks. Those are issues that we've all faced in an impassable sidewalk on Nevada Way. Those are issues that can be addressed now without infrastructure changes. The Accessible BC Working Group emphasized in one of their recommendations that the city should make priority code enforcement and traffic enforcement of ADA regulations related to encroachment permits and handicap parking violations a priority. Currently, they are not a priority, and I think we all know that. I'd love, Mayor Hardy, to take you down Nevada Way on a Friday evening in a wheelchair, and let's see how far we get. It just doesn't work. So maybe you're wondering what this all has to do with the city manager. Well, I think other people have said that obviously the city manager is the person who spearheads this. I actually did a little research and went back to when the Department of Justice worked with Boulder City to get the city to meet the ADA requirements. That was back in the 90s, long time ago, and you know who signed off with the Department of Justice? The city manager at the time. It's the city, that's where the buck stops. The city manager is the person who has to work on compliance. So it's really important that you get someone who already has experience with this. This isn't a learn-on-the-job kind of thing. Let's see. I think as a city we need to try to achieve the goals stated in the proclamation, getting into ADA compliance, and I think we need a city manager who will help us get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Patricia Jacobson. I am a 50-year resident of Boulder City, and 3 generations of my family live here. I'm a retired school teacher, and I am multiply disabled. I prefer to call it other-abled, but that's okay. I'm here to address 11B, and I urge the council to ensure that a city manager, whomever they hire, is not only minimally compliant as in the past, but is well-versed and actively involved in the needs of a large percentage of our population. We, the other-abled, are still a vital part of this community. We man the polling booths, voting time. We volunteer for Country Store. We work with our churches. We take care of the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts, you name it. We buy Girl Scout cookies. We support everything that comes down the line, and we are not dead yet. We deserve a city manager who is not minimally attentive to the needs of this community, but who is actively searching for answers, because we all deserve a safe and fruitful life, no matter how long or short it is. You have to remember, some of you will be where I'm at very soon. I'm partially blind, and I'm physically disabled, and there are so many things that need attention in this town. The number one thing for my friends like Cindy who can't see, put sound responders on the crosswalk lights so that visually impaired people can hear when it's safe to walk across the street before somebody gets run over. And remember, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Barbara Paulson, and guess what? I'm also speaking on agenda item 10 and 11. And I'm speaking on behalf of the Boulder City Cluster of Nevadans for the Common Good. Our group is a broad-based community organization whose mission is to work with citizens to make life better for all the residents in our community. We support and applaud the efforts that are being made by the Boulder City Work Group regarding the American Disabilities Act and accessibility in Boulder City. We know that this current work began under our former city manager, Taylor Tedder, and is being carried on now by our interim city manager, Michael Mays, and we hope that it is carried on as well as they have done by the new city manager. The work group has put forth 5 different recommendations, and one of those is for the city to undertake a public awareness campaign on accessibility issues. Every resident in this city plays a role in the implementation and adherence to an accessibility ordinance. I never realized how many things you had to look at until my father was in a walker and then later in a wheelchair. Disability parking may be the closest to the entrance of a facility, but it doesn't mean necessarily that it's close or easy to get there. It's surprising how when you walk through a mall with somebody with a walker, how many people expect you to move out of their road rather than moving out of mine. So it was a real experience learning the real world that many of us take for granted and just don't realize what it's like if you have a disability. So we see it very important that there is a public awareness, a public education plan that's carried out that is going to be critical for any of the ordinances that are passed or already are in place to be understood by the public and well enforced. And so Nevadans for the Common Good strongly wants to see a new city manager in Boulder City that has both the knowledge and the experience background to be a leader in a public campaign to build awareness for everyone in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Jacobson. I am not related to this other lady, Mrs. Jacobson over here. However, I am acquainted with some of you council members, and I would like to make some remarks here. Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you for this opportunity to express some ideas before you this afternoon. Regarding the matter of finding a replacement for the city manager's position, I have these thoughts. The people of Boulder City have chosen you to represent their interests in making decisions on who should be hired to replace Mr. Tedder. We do have an HR department, but apparently they don't want to be tasked with hiring their future boss. However, it is their job to find qualified candidates for employment at City Hall. Might I suggest that a goal of 3 candidates be considered and that candidates have 10 to 20 years in prior management experience. We do not need a specialist with a degree in city management, but rather a person with the ability to lead and to solve everyday problems. People who have management experience in the private sector have faced the same problems as those from the public sector and have to answer to business owners or corporate boards. Their decisions either make their companies successful or risk losing their own capital. A person with an MBA degree may be a good option to hunt for. I understand the company that you are considering to find a replacement for Tedder has DEI policies guiding their decisions. And I can say without reservation that DEI is not worthy of consideration because it gives preference based on race, color, and gender. It is also inclusive of Marxism. Okay, it is not based on actual experience or qualification. DEI, in my mind, stands for didn't earn it. I believe it would be a waste of city money to use the same headhunters that took Tedder to the East Coast and reward them with $35,000 of our resources to replace him. Forget the headhunters and use your HR people to find candidates. Let me also suggest that we utilize the internet to find the right person for this job. There are many free job posting sites and some who charge, but not nearly $35,000. Please investigate Indeed.com, ZipRecruiter, and you can find at least 10 or 12 more easily. Mr. Fox, Ms. Booth, and possibly others on this council have hired employees before. Isn't there sufficient God-given common sense amongst the council members to make a selection of this importance? In conclusion, please do the job we elected you to do. I know it may take some time to come to a decision, but the candidates who can succeed managing the affairs of a city should be capable of finding this opportunity without intermediary resources. If they cannot find you, they are probably incapable of managing our affairs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the council and those that are present for this meeting today. My name is Charm McElry. Where was everybody looking for the correct spelling? Nobody, okay. Anyway, my name is Charm McElroy, and I'm appearing before you tonight to address Agenda 11B, referencing the hiring of a certified or willing to be certified city manager to implement the ADA requirements for our city. As a country, we've come a long way in addressing these problems for the disabled Americans, but we have so much more to do. Boulder City has implemented some changes, but for instance, we have curved ramps with truncated domes, a new word for me, making it easier for the people who are blind to find the crosswalks. The city installed the auditory walking tour of the city, sharing historic events that took place during the building of the Hoover Dam and other important facts regarding the existence of our very special town. Ramps have been installed in some of the businesses, making them more accessible to wheelchairs. As with this country, there are more changes that should occur, and the certified person familiar with the rules and regulations of ADA, but also bringing people with lived experience to the decision-making table. It's difficult for those of us without disabilities to deeply understand the challenges who have lived these experiences. Try putting on a blinder and walking around your own living room, or walking along the city streets of Boulder City, such as Main Street, where the walkway in front of some of these businesses is barely accessible by a person. Imagine being in a wheelchair. Boulder City is visited by thousands of visitors every year, and they view the wonders of the Hoover Dam and the city that built it. I look forward for us being the champions of making Boulder City accessible by all people with the leadership and compassion of a city clerk who understands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city staff. Thank you for this time. My name is Norma Valley. I'm here to address agenda numbers 10 and 11. More specifically, I'd like to focus on the process used to select an employee. Does Boulder City have a personnel department? Does the personnel department hire or fire city employees for positions budgeted to operate the city departments? Since the personnel department hires and fires city employees, why doesn't the personnel department use their expertise and contacts to solicit applications from qualified candidates to fill the position of city manager? What makes the hiring or firing of a Boulder City manager any different than any other Boulder City employee position? Doesn't the personnel department have connections used to post notice to fill a position on the Boulder City staff? Why does Boulder City need to spend tens of thousands of dollars to hire a recruitment firm to provide a list of names of qualified city manager candidates when the city already has a personnel department that is funded through the budget process to hire Boulder City employees? That money would be much better served going to something that really needs it, especially since there's already a paid department in place for employee selection. Now, perhaps selecting a city manager candidate falls outside of what the personnel department has done in the past. I don't know, but I'm confident you guys would be able to figure it out without needing to spend tens of thousands of dollars. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Judith Hoskins, a resident and a former city council member. So I'm going to talk about item 3 first, Resolution 7823, and I would like the special event promotion grant be approved. Item 11B, I'd like to speak on that, but first I'd like to thank all of you for making the proclamation. I think that was very nice and well-deserved and overdue. But on item 11B, as part of the city manager's recruitment process, I would like to see a requirement that the applicant must have ADA experience or receive ADA training in the first month of employment in that position. Thank you, Michael Mays, for serving on 2 different positions, even when I was on council. And you've done a fantastic job. You listen to people. You have the experience, and I would say thank you so very much for listening to the ADA people and their concerns. It really, really is appreciated by most of the employees and the residents of Boulder City. Thank you very much. Also, when I use my walker in areas where tables and chairs occupy the sidewalks, it is impossible to navigate that area safely. And I know most of you have not seen me use a walker, but I have since I had knee surgery, and I do have some other handicaps other than being short. So thank you so very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. If someone needs to be on the phone line, 702-589-9629.
We have somebody on the phone line.
Let's have that one right now then. Come forward.
Go ahead with your public comment.
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead. State your name.
Hi, so my name is Jennifer Levitt. And I would love to thank the mayor, first of all, for this proclamation. And I do want to disclose that I was a patient of Mayor Hardy's. He was instrumental in getting my diagnosis through UCLA 12 years ago. I also would like to speak to item 11B. My concern is that as the city seeks to fill this position of city manager, that much like the prior speakers, that our candidate is ADA certified and that this city council would have an expectation for this person to be intentional to address the needs of those of us who are differently abled. As a person who is living with disability, I use an electric wheelchair full time. And to be honest, I'm disheartened at the apathy I've experienced and the lack of ADA compliance for persons with disability here in Boulder City. I'm on a path to earn my degree in social work. I'm a volunteer with people in crisis. I'm a domestic violence advocate. And many of my clients are disabled or aging as well. I don't know if the City Council is aware that Boulder City has double the national average of people with disabilities, and that's the minimum estimate. Right now, current estimates are at least 40% of our residents live with a disability. So coming from both a social work perspective and a first-person perspective, the needs of the disabled are disproportionately not being met. For myself, as I've tried to navigate our beautiful city, I love it here. But honestly, I'm unable to participate in community events. Many of them are not set up in a way that those with disabilities are able to participate. I'm not able to shop at most of the stores or restaurants, and I don't have safe access to travel within our community. I myself have been launched out of my wheelchair or tipped due to hazards, potholes on the sidewalks, encroachment issues, and ADA non-compliance. Honestly, I most often have to ride my electric wheelchair in the street, in traffic, day or night. I especially have to do this on Buchanan if I'm going to go to CVS or go down to my church, and especially on Nevada Way. And as you've heard, this is really common amongst people in wheelchairs or with walkers here in Boulder City. So my hope is that our city manager will be equipped and capable to make Boulder City a safe place for all of us, and that, again, the council will have an expectation. The mayor's proclamation spoke of inclusion. And I don't really see able-bodied people regularly being forced to walk into traffic day or night to get their groceries, to get their medications, to go visit a friend or go to a house of worship. But again, many of us in the wheelchairs or on walkers do. My child is disabled. It's a genetic disease. And my child has had to go into traffic and try not to be hit just to get from point A to point B. I don't want someone to be seriously injured for this to really capture the hearts of those that we've elected to help support our community. So I'm asking that you fulfill the due diligence to protect and enable the 40% of us in the community who unfortunately have been disregarded and worse, have been put in harm's way. And I'd like to thank you again for listening to us. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else on the phone line?
Public comment.
Yeah, the camera for the city council meeting is off.
Pardon me?
The camera for the city council meeting is off.
We have the phone number up.
All we hear is voice. We don't see the visual anymore during the meeting.
Okay, I'll look into that. Thank you. Are you wanting to
Thank you.
provide public comment?
Oh, no, that's pretty much it. That's all. Thank you.
So, ma'am, would you like to come up?
Maybe it's on because it's on that.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity to speak to the city council and our city employees. My name is Sharon Newby, a Boulder City resident. And as point of disclosure, I would also like to say that I am the chair of the Boulder City Democratic Club, but I'm speaking on behalf of myself. In fact, I was so encouraged to hear some younger people speaking about their disabilities, because as a former special ed, multidisciplinary special ed teacher, I was thinking as I'm sitting there and listening to them talking about the wheelchairs, they had many disabilities, and we try to encourage tourists. If we brought them here on a field trip to practice money or to practice buying or to go shopping or to go the walking tour, they wouldn't be able to do that. They couldn't get through the statues, and some of them would be scared to death of the statues that are on the sidewalk. I was just thinking of that because I was really coming to speak for my age of people, and specifically my husband, who's lived here since 1979. He recently had health issues, and he's on oxygen now. He was actually one of Dr. Hardy's patients when he first started being a doctor here in Boulder City. And he just got his thing that you put on your mirror to be able to park somewhere, but there's nowhere for him to park. It's a good thing he has his portable oxygen, and he can just park over in the parking lot and walk to his favorite coffee shop to have his morning coffee, and read his book and visit with whoever he can get to talk to it. Also, so that was one thing I wanted to say, and then about the younger people, because I was thinking about them and I just felt so touched that we're making this effort and that we hopefully get someone who is sensitive to all disabled people on all ages and have them be able to enjoy our city. It's such a wonderful city. I love living here, and I haven't lived here that long. I just truly love our parks and our dog parks, which my husband goes to every day. But, are there any parking spaces for disabled people at the park? I don't know. He never used it, but he just got his ticket, so we'll see. Anyway, so this task force, it's wonderful that you had a task force. I support everything that's been said as far as hiring someone who has the ability to know the American with Disability Act requirements and can get something rolling on that and get some things done. I've heard that those little thing, I learned about the little domes also, and those little domes that go wrong on, some of them are going the wrong way. And you couldn't, as a blind person would not know, and they can get out there, and then there's not one across the street. It does not make a lot of sense to me. Someone did a halfway job, and we need to complete all of our American with Disabilities requirements in Boulder City. We can do it. We are known for accepting everyone here. We have all these activities, and I want everyone to be able to enjoy our beautiful city, and that we hire a person who has the knowledge and experience, although I don't know that they need 10 to 20 years experience, to implement any ideas that we can, and we can allocate the money to do that. And thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on the phone or written?
I have a written public comment.
Okay.
This public comment was provided by Nicola Collins. Public comment, can you hold on one moment, please?
Yes.
Thank you. The city is in the process of hiring a new city manager. Of the many skills necessary to do the job, I hope you will include expertise and familiarity with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Our town has a large elderly population, and the harsh reality is that we are all only temporarily able-bodied. My husband suffered a slow paralysis from ALS and used a wheelchair to get around town for many years. I can't tell you what a difference that ability to move freely and be independent made to the quality of his life. Things we all take for granted until they are taken from us. As a community, we need to make sure that we protect the rights of the disabled by implementing the ADA and give them the opportunity to live full and independent lives. Public comment, go ahead.
Good evening. For the record, Fred Volz. I also would like to comment on items 10 and 11 on the agenda this evening. The first comment I have is about this critical labor shortage. There is no such problem in finding a city manager across the many jurisdictions in the United States, someone who could serve the community's interest. We do not need such a designation. We don't need to bring somebody out of retirement to fill the position, which is essentially what NRS 286 allows for, and still receiving their PERS benefits if they're already retired. Secondly, in finding somebody, we do have an HR department. Their job is to find acceptable candidates, and there's absolutely no need for an external consultant. The person is ultimately going to be working under the direction of the city council, and they should have the skill to hire people and go through the recruiting process and ask the questions that are necessary to find somebody competent. And finally, I would suggest that regarding the ADA, it's been 34 years since George Bush signed legislation into law, and government, not just Boulder City, but around the country, has been incredibly slow and resistant to implementing the accessibility issues that are necessary for people with disabilities. They've had no problem putting pressure on private businesses to comply, but they haven't been willing to set the example for themselves. And not only do we need a new city manager who understands the ADA from day one, but we also need the funding to implement these projects. So I would suggest that rather than constructing an overblown swimming pool complex, which is what is currently on the table for probably $50 million by the time inflation and the money is collected, we need something much more basic and use that extra money to actually make these improvements around town, to sidewalks, streets, etc. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more on the phone?
Not at this time.
And no written?
No, just the one.
Anyone else welcome to come forward in public comment and address anything on the agenda? Seeing no one and hearing no one on the phone or written, we will close the initial public comment. Thank you for your participation. We will now go to the approval of the regular agenda. Do I have a motion?
To approve the regular agenda.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion approved. Thank you. And then approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. No opposed. And then we'll move to bills on number 7 on the agenda.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members, I should say evening. Before you is Bill 2059. This is an ordinance amending Ordinance 417 to terminate the 1971 development agreement between Boulder City Hospital and the City of Boulder City for property known as Tract 128, as all conditions have been satisfied. In 1971, the city sold land to Boulder City, and as a condition of that, required that certain off-site improvements, such as streets and water infrastructure, be built by the hospital and dedicated to the city. All developments have been completed, and the Boulder City Hospital and City now desire to terminate this agreement so that it does not serve as a cloud on the title to the property. There are representatives here that can answer questions if there are any.
Thank you. Any questions? I would accept a motion.
I'll move to approve Bill 2059.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. It's unanimous. Thank you. And Councilman Fox is not able to be on, correct? So did he say aye or nay or? Okay, so he's listening at least. Okay. Bill number 2059 is approved then. Item 8.
Item 8 is Bill 2060. This is approving lease agreement 93-247D between the city and Betty Hire. This is a ground lease at the Boulder City Airport. The original group had expired in 2023. This individual had title issues as the lessee had passed away, and so the asset needed to go through probate, and so the city extended the lease for 11 months to allow that process to occur. Now that that process is completed, the lessee is requesting an extension similar to the others that were granted last year, and this would extend the agreement for a period of 10 years to October 27, 2023, with one 10-year renewal option.
Any questions? I would accept a motion.
Move to approve Bill 2060.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve Bill number 2060. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. We will now move to the regular agenda, and inasmuch as I can, I would like to move number 11 to the top of the regular agenda before item 9.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
If I might make a comment, I think item 10 is nearly directly pertinent to item 11. I don't know if you've already considered that and still want to move 11 to the top above 10 as well, or if you want to.
So I'll move number 11 to the top and number 10 immediately afterwards.
Okay, thanks.
And then 9 will follow 10.
Good evening, Mayor Hardy, members of City Council. On June 10th, City Council directed staff to solicit additional proposals from recruitment firms regarding the city manager position. Staff reached out to over 24 firms across the country that provide these services, and the city received 10 responses with that request. Those responses are included in your packet with their proposals. They talk about the various ways that they would undertake the recruitment process and bring candidates to the City Council for your consideration for the city manager position. We've also included the Roftelis proposal that was also being considered by the council on June 10th. Staff is looking for direction from the City Council regarding the proposals submitted. Ideally, if the council could narrow it down to a couple proposals, then we would work to bring those firms before you to give presentations so you could ask them more specific questions. If the council narrows it down to one, then we would work to enter into a contract with that firm and then also bring them before the council to begin the recruitment process and seek direction from the council on how to handle that recruitment process. With that, I can answer any questions you may have with the proposal submitted.
Thank you. I know we've talked about this before, and we had a feeling as a council, the kind of interactive kind of way to figure out what a person would do. And I know Councilman Walton had made those kinds of comments, and so I'd open it up for discussion.
I'll start. In reviewing this, one of the things Mr. Walton wanted was to be able to test somebody. We can do that ourselves with the DISC test, so that's something that we could do. It runs about $80. And one of the firms said they would do the light option, which was the CPS HR, if we found somebody. Is that correct, Mr. Mays?
Correct. Two of the firms, CPS HR as well as MRI, would provide limited services to help with the recruitment process. The other firms provide additional services.
So in just my process of reviewing these, I kind of liken it to getting an appraisal. If you get a house appraisal, it's about $400 to $500. If you get a commercial appraisal, you're going to start out about $2,500 because they put all this fluff in there, like the population and all that stuff. So I kind of went through these, and so many of them put in so much fluff that you didn't really learn what they were doing. And then they all talked about doing a brochure for us. So I went to their websites, and some of them had terrible websites. When you pulled it up, you didn't even know what they did. So how are they going to represent us if we're looking to recruit somebody? We need them to note that they're a recruitment firm. But I did find the WBCP didn't have a lot of wasted stuff in there, so I didn't have to read a bunch of garbage. I could get down to the details, and their website was a great website. So that was one that I would recommend for that reason. The Baker Tilly, which is another firm that's only $28,000, I say only, but it had so much fluff in it that it was just such a waste of time to even go through it because it had so much stuff in there. And their website, you really couldn't tell what they did, but I know they do a multiple of things, so that might be the reason why they may have another website to go to for just recruitment. I didn't see that there. So, and then the other one was Emergent Method, and they didn't have any fluff either, which I thought was good because I just want the facts. I don't want a bunch of fluff in what I have to read to get to the basic facts that tell you exactly what they do. So WBCP and Emergent Methods would be my two choices. So,
Thank you. Other comments?
Well, I'll weigh in then. I did choose WBCP as one of the top choices, Baker Tilly also as the other, inasmuch as in their descriptions for their process, they understand the difference between just recruiting somebody who might be able to check certain boxes versus somebody who knows how to lead and how to do assessments relating to coming to those conclusions. I could get behind WBCP enthusiastically as well as Baker Tilly.
I think there's a lot of factors to consider when we look at this, and I know that you did a nice job of being able to give us a form that considered some of those factors. One being the cost, the overall cost that they want to charge for the services provided, what kind of assessments they provide, and if it's a light recruitment process or a heavy recruitment process. I went through myself and did some looking at it. My overarching concern is that we get the right person for this job. when you recruit nationally, I think, yes, it opens the pool, and that's great, and we have the capacity to get someone really wonderful. I hope they want to stay, right? Because sometimes if they're young and wonderful, they leave because they have bigger fish they want to fry later on. So, I mean, even with today's conversation on ADA, there's some things that are important to our community specifically at this time. And I didn't see those things being mentioned. I know that there were other things mentioned in it of the ways they recruit, who they recruit from, and how they recruit. But is it specific to us is my question. And so part of me looks at this and says, first off, I in no way want to spend $58,000 for recruiting. Because I do think there is some responsibility from us up here for having the ability to assess once we get candidates that are qualified. But also, I'm not so sure that I feel we should in-house it because, again, I said it's not wise for us to pick our boss because there might be some things that go along with that when we pick our own boss. Now, is it wise for us up here? Yes. It's wise for us up here because that is our job. Our job is to pick a city manager. So that falls on us. That's our onus. So with that being said, in looking at these, if a personality test is the end-all be-all, right? If that's what we're going to hang our hat on, and the person that has that or those kind of testing are $30,000 and $35,000, but Koki, you just said how much can we give our own for? $80. I'm just going to say personally, no, just for myself, I'm going to say, you know, I want to make sure I'm getting more for that $30,000 than that $80 test. So, because I think that's something we could do on the side. So if that's the only thing that attracts you to, or any of us to either of these, then I would not consider that a high definition area if we can give that also ourselves.
So where did you land on the matrix?
You want to know truthfully where I landed?
Yeah.
Not overly thrilled with any of them, to be quite frank with you, because but this always is my lot in life, is I want it specific to us. I don't want it generalized. And I recognize when they come in and they explain to us how they're going to recruit, how they're going to do these things, it's a generalized forum. But some of them did not seem appropriate for Boulder cities and what we need here. So I didn't land with any of them, but yes, please weigh in.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can I weigh in? As I understand it, we decide which, if any, company we think has the qualities of recruitment and the processes that we feel are valuable to help us get the best candidate for Boulder City's position. But I don't believe that we turn everything over to them and take what they give us. I believe step one is deciding which, if any, we believe would be the best fit for us as a council to work with. Step two is providing parameters for that company then to determine what the ideal candidates or the candidates that will proceed down the process look like. And then we define those parameters ourselves. And so it becomes customized based on what council gives direction to staff to tell which, if any, company we decide is the right one. And therefore it is our recruitment. I don't know that I think it would be foolish of any council to just turn it over and say, give us three that you think are good. Because we would very likely not get the best fit. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mays, in this, but that's my understanding of working with these firms, these recruitment firms, that we give them our parameters. We tell them what qualifications we want to see, what our minimum qualifications, our desirable qualifications, and our essential qualifications are. And then they go out and find those individuals, and then we then talk about who they've found and then who we want to interview.
Yeah, Councilmember Walton, that is correct. So once you select a firm, the next step in the process was that firm would come before you as a council and ask for your direction on what the process should look like. And you would give that direction to tailor the recruitment process the way the council wants to see that happen.
I'm going to weigh in, then you can do it again. So I heard us speaking before about, how do we evaluate a person, and that's where I looked at Baker Tilly, for instance, that had a tool called TTI for an assessment. I looked at Emergent Method that had a Hogan personality inventory, which obviously, no matter who we get, is going to have a personality. We just want it to be the one that doesn't offend us. Simple things. And then I looked at WCP with their skill-based assessments and emotional intelligence testing called operational style assessments. And so of those, I would have ended up with Baker Tilly, Emergent Method, and WCP. I say that because I don't think we can do it alone. I don't know that we would get as the penetration nationwide, as it were, what the skill set is. And, it's one thing for us to say, well, do you like this or do you like that? But there's a lot of, for instance, I get called by people and they say, and they interview me about, a person. And it's interesting that takes time, and it takes a skill set that when you're quote unquote a headhunter, that's what we're doing. We're hiring somebody potentially to be a headhunter, but the headhunter doesn't make the decision on who it is. It's we make that decision who it is. The headhunter usually winnows down the selections, much like we're doing tonight. We're doing that kind of thing tonight. We're saying, okay, who do we like best to tell us who we like best? That's what we're doing. And so I liked the concept of Baker Tilly's. I liked documentation like they do. I like the documentation Emergent does. And quite frankly, I like the WCP and their interest in quote unquote everybody included. And so I like, those were the three that rose to my liking more than the others. And having said that, go ahead.
Well, I think Sherry brought up a good point about finding somebody here locally, possibly, that could be our city manager that wants to stay in Nevada. Maybe they're from Reno or Las Vegas area that want to stay here with us and have some qualifications. We have two companies that will do the partial for us so that they could work with our HR department and bring in some people. And the one said 10,000. I don't know what the other people would charge. And that might be a good option for us to go with and do our own disc test on the person that the people that we get down to, and see if we can find somebody maybe that will stay a little longer than 2 or 3 years. So I think Taylor stayed, 3.5 years? 2 years, 2.5. And a lot of them give you a 1-year guarantee, but 1 year is not, you barely get them trained, and if they leave in 1 year, you would certainly hope there'd be a guarantee on that. But that would be our other option, would to go with the light option of 10,000.
Go ahead.
And I like what you brought up, Koki, because one of my concerns is that if you only get a year guarantee and you know that they're in the business of looking at qualified candidates for city manager, that our city manager is only safe for 1 year. And then they're going to come recruiting again because they know that city manager. And I think that's what happened, is then ours got recruited. So that is one of my concerns, because it's very hard to recoup $58,000 in 1 year. You know, and you could give someone an incentive of $58,000 and get probably a good candidate that way. So one thing that I did like about Baker Tilly that I will say is that they did begin, recruitment truly begins with your needs. And if that is truly, truly what it is, right? We have specific needs to Boulder City. And I think I heard from Taylor over and over, one of the things that surprised him most is our special culture in Boulder City. And that we are very involved in our public government and how our city runs. And we have a community that cares about it. So you don't just sit up there by yourself and govern. As a city manager, you are an open door, pretty much. And not everybody who comes from everywhere likes that idea. And I think that they need to know what they're getting into and what our expectations are from the get-go, and that it's our expectations, never theirs.
I appreciate that. So I did the math, you know, since 2012, we had a city manager 4 years, a city manager 2 years, a city manager 2 years. And in those findings by firms, we had 47 applicants to get one that spent 4 years here. We had 35 applicants to be city manager to spend 2 years here. We had 92 applicants to get 2 years here. So there is not a shortage of applicants. I think to your point, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, I think there is a definite advantage to getting somebody who's here. And no matter how we do it, the people who are here would obviously have some standing and be there and be familiar with the whole concept of who is Boulder City and, you know, what do we do. So none of these applications say you can't apply if you're living there. None of those applications, you know, are going to say, well, if you live there, it's a strike against you. We think it would be a strike for you. I mean, it would be a home run, really, if they stay and want to be, and they're qualified, and they're familiar with the ADA requirements. I mean, that's a win-win-win. And, you know, hearing what we've heard tonight, we obviously need to make sure that we pay attention, and I appreciate Mr. Mays, what he's already doing. And we're on the right track. We're on the right things that we've positioned ourselves to pay attention and recognize that we have things that we can do better for everybody. And so I think if we have, if we put a different set of eyes, meaning if we hire somebody to look at those kinds of things, the personality assessment, all of those kinds of things, I think we would be wise to have someone besides our staff look at what they feel the getting together would be, and I think we need just some distance between our staff doing the culling and us being the final decision. That's why I like Baker Tilly and I like Emergent and I like WCP, because I think that's kind of what I heard Councilman Walton saying initially about it would be nice to have someone who meets certain ways of thinking, someone who has certain personalities, etc. So that's where I'm at. So I'm I could go with Tilly, I could go with Emergent, and I could go with WCP at this point in time. I could do any one of those. And so my question is, do we have feelings after that, after we've said, so I've got 3 people who say, you know, Baker Tilly, I've got 3 people who've said WCP, and then we have none of the above. And I understand the none of the above, because I could probably pick somebody all by myself. And then it'd be done, and then you guys would say, what in the world are you thinking? So we have to have just a little leeway that we can have in order to be able to discuss or have the person evaluated. So it's not me making a decision. It's all of the council preferably should be comfortable with what we do. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. It'd be nice to be comfortable. And I think Matt's on the line, so let's hear from him.
Yep, my phone is working again. I don't know what's going on, but my phone froze up for a while. But I'm right there with you guys. I do like Emergent, Baker Tilly, and WCP. Those are my 3 that stood out to me. And I know there's concerns of, you know, if we hire somebody, are they going to stay? Are they going to go somewhere else? I think that's going to be a problem no matter how we go about a city manager. You know, because we're such a small town, we can be, you know, to these applicants, we could be like a stepping stone for them. You know, especially if they're younger and new to the city management or you know, like positions to come in here. So I see everyone's concern, you know, about people just leaving, but I don't think it doesn't matter how we go about whether we go with the outside company or we do it internally. I think that's just going to be a problem we're going to have to overcome and deal with ourselves. And that's just how I feel about those. But those are the 3 that stood out to me were Baker Tilly, WCP, and Emergent.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
So which of those 3 that stand out to everyone do they feel like is most likely to, when they go out for the process, if they go out for a process like this, take and make the hiring process be about our agenda, like what we are looking for specifically, as opposed to just who they know and how, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is who we always recruit from. This is how we always recruit, as opposed to, is that a good fit? Do they want to move here? Do they want to live here? Because moving here and living here, there's a cost of living that's different here in Boulder City than in Henderson, you know? And so the requirement is you live here in Boulder City, right? Isn't that the requirement?
Charter.
Right, and in the charter. So that's part of it. And so we have specific things that I think when they go out to recruit, it should be mentioned. These are the specific things we're looking for. This is our requirements or agenda, as opposed to maybe what you generally think is most important. Because what's most important to Henderson or Las Vegas isn't most important to Boulder City all the time. Sometimes it overlaps, but sometimes it doesn't. And so that's why I think we need to, I'm thankful for national firms that will go out and do a huge recruitment. But on the same token, sometimes it can get so ambiguous that it does not look at the particulars of what we need. And I think we should drive what we need.
Well, this is becoming very easy. Our number 1 goal is for someone to stay.
Yes.
That's what we want.
Can we, in a contract, like with, have like a 5-year contract for them to stay? Is that something we can do?
Yeah, we can have in that contract to take their firstborn, something that will have teeth. Oh, we can't do that? No, my clerk says we can't do that.
The city charter requires that the terms of the appointeds be indefinite, And so there couldn't be any sort of term on the contract where there could be incentives to stay. If the person stays so long, there's incentives, but there can't be a term.
Okay, thank you. So, strike that from the record. So as I see it, if somebody is willing and has been here, it would be nice because that would put them up on a rung. And if they, speaking of rungs, if they can have an ADA understanding and commitment, and if they have the skills to do it, and if they have a track record that's clean, and if they have experiences, and what I would say is relationships. People who have proven they can have good relationships, and if they have relationships locally, then we have the relationships and the stay coming pretty much to the top because we know they'll stay. And we know that they get along with people because we can call them up and say, how do you get along with so-and-so? And they'll say, well, I love him or I love her. And so that's where I'm coming from. So my question then is, do we go with Baker Tilly, which has 4 people who would be willing, or WBCP, who have 4 people who are willing, or none of the above?
Well, I think with Baker Tilly, they just have so much garbage in their brochure that they sent us. So that's how I feel they're going to work for us.
Okay.
Because they have so much stuff in there that had absolutely nothing to do with anything of how they're going to do the process. Where Emergent Method and WBCP, both of those just gave us an assessment of what they were going to do and not have a bunch of junk stuff in there.
Okay, so I'm narrowing it down to WBCP, and I've already had...
Those would just be my 2 choices. I don't
Mhm.
know how anybody else feels.
Other comments?
I'll add another comment, Mr. Mayor. Emergent Method, they do have the credibility in what they said about working with us on the strategic plan. I don't want that to go unstated, although to me that's not the additional credibility that makes me want to choose them. I'm just saying that for all our benefit. I did like the service that WBCP offers. I like the depth of the background checking and all the information they do, the credit reports and so on and so forth, in addition to the highly valued leadership assessment rubrics that they have included. And so for my 2 cents of an opinion, I think that's the value that I would see that would help Boulder City find the best city manager candidates. And commenting on the numbers of candidates or applicants, and I appreciate that staff included those numbers, but the numbers don't necessarily indicate that every candidate even met the minimum qualifications. And some of them are eliminated just based on the fact they didn't have whatever those minimum quals were that were listed. So, yeah, a lot of people most recently applied, and I guess we'll never really know unless we call up the companies that were doing that and asked how many were eliminated just on the initial review. But back to WBCP, I would weigh in that I could settle on them this evening if that's the flavor and the opinion of the group. If not, then I could help whittle it down to another additional choice to consider or to hear from further.
Well, what I hear is none of us are die hard, don't do anything with anybody, but we want to do something with somebody. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. So then that brings us to, are we comfortable with, and We've got 4 people who've said they're comfortable with WBCP. Do we want to make that unanimous?
I can support it.
I'm buying that.
So I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we move forward with WBCP.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, discussion?
Can we have any caveat in there about it being specific to our needs? I mean, I know they're going to come in, they're going to ask us, but, I mean, putting parameters or thoughts
You
beyond.
have, the next step in the process would be they would come before you and you would provide direction on specifically what you want included in that recruitment process to tailor it to Boulder City's needs.
Okay.
So we will hear from them before we sign a contract.
Okay.
More discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 And no one's opposed. Motion approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of the council. So I will work to contact WBCP to have them present before the city council where we can have that dialogue.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll move to item number 10. And this is Councilman Walton's suggestions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll give a few introductory comments here. So the subject as included in the packet for possible action, this is limited to discussion and possible direction regarding whether the city should explore declaring a critical labor shortage for the city manager position pursuant to NRS 286. So again, there's a lot of conditional terms in there, discussion and possible direction, whether or not the city should explore doing this. So we're not making any critical decisions in this discussion. So, and before I continue, I'd like to clarify a few additional points. So I'm going to read my spiel here if you'll bear with me. We're currently seeking to recruit for the position of city manager. I have requested that this item be brought forward at this time for this position only. And the conversation this evening, as agendized, is limited to the position of city manager. And to answer any questions and quell any rumors, innuendos, or accusations, I do not have any individual or individuals in mind. I do not know anyone who may be interested in applying under this exemption, nor have I spoken with any potential applicants who would qualify to apply for city manager under a declaration of critical labor shortage. I hope that's really clear to everybody. I'm not. There is nothing in here that I know anybody or spoken with anybody who might qualify. I simply would like the council to take up the conversation for the possibility of having the best applicant pool to find the best fit for Boulder City. And I bring this forward because I believe that opening up the applicant pool to State of Nevada retirees will yield a deeper pool of highly qualified applicants. In this, I believe Boulder City has everything to gain and nothing to lose. So, furthering the introduction. The Nevada PERS, Public Employee Retirement System, critical labor shortage designation has been in existence for at least 8 years, since April 2016. That's as far back as I can find memos and forms. So in 8 years, this has been in existence. As indicated by the list attached in the packet, there are currently 355 positions that are actively classified as critical labor shortage positions within the state. The positions are varied throughout the entire state, including school districts, as well as in state and local jurisdictions. Most of the entities using the designation are in low populous areas. The challenge in finding the right person for important positions becomes exponentially difficult, as we well know, for smaller cities and counties. The designation does not obligate an entity to accept applicants who are PERS retirees, nor does the designation require that the entity hire someone who qualifies to apply under that exemption. In the interpretation of our city attorney, quote, "The city council is designated with the discretion and authority to declare a critical labor shortage. The statute requires the governing body to make the written findings for each criteria," and that's in the packet A through E. "The statute does not set forth any metrics or standards for how the criteria are evaluated, and instead leaves that to the city council or other applicable governing body to evaluate," end quote. And then continuing my introduction, in addressing items A through E, the governing body does not have to find itself lacking in each and every area. PERS does not review for qualification the validity of the governing body's findings, nor does PERS provide a minimum threshold other than this statement that I'll read contained in NRS 286.523. Quote, "In determining whether a position is a position for which there is a critical labor shortage, the designating authority shall make findings based upon the criteria set forth in this subsection that support the designation. Before making the designation, the designating authority shall consider all efforts made by the employer to fill the position through other means. The written findings made by the designating authority must include items A through E as listed in the packet. In-state or even local applicants with many years of experience, proven track records, professional relationships, and understanding of Nevada law will potentially help us, the city council working for the community, find the most qualified fit for the open position of city manager. Some detractors may have an aversion to Boulder City hiring a person that can be collecting a retirement benefit as well as a salary. But this is the case with current employees now working for the city. The only difference is that the retirement benefit is from another state or agency and not Nevada. We also have many on staff who are vested in a retirement system from another state and seeking to become vested in Nevada in order to increase their retirement benefits. I do not see that it is wise for this council to hold this idea out as a reason to limit our applicant pool. For I think what we all could agree is one of, or if not the most important staff position in the city. Finally, if council chooses to designate the position of city manager under critical labor shortage designation, and if a PERS retiree ultimately is hired under the exemption, this body would have to declare the position under the critical labor shortage every 2 years for the individual to maintain their employment under the exemption status. And so I think you might discern where I stand on the issue. But I think, as I stated before, we have everything to gain and nothing to lose in considering the critical labor shortage so that we can open up our pool and hopefully get what might be a local or at least in-state candidate that has all those desirable background and experience that could help the city manager be more successful. Now, on a personal note, being retired from PERS and being associated with other people that are, my experience is finding that people plan into retirement for 1 or 2 years. And then so many say, I've got so much more to offer. I've got a lot more gas in the tank. I want to stay engaged. I'm looking for something more to do. And many of them leave the state because that's their only opportunity to work for an agency where they have background and experience, which is in the public sector. So they go to our neighboring states and we lose local talent. And I think that's unfortunate. I think we might be wise to consider how we could draw on local talent. And again, we can make this designation. PERS doesn't review it and say, no, that's not good enough for us. They just require that we address every one of the items in our discussion. So that's my introduction. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Other comments?
Well, as I look through the packet here, most of the critical shortages are for teachers, pharmacists, in the medical field where there really are a lot of shortages. I don't see that we have a critical shortage yet. From the data that we just had from number 11, that they had plenty of applicants that applied for the positions. And I would think this would be something you would do if they brought candidates back that didn't qualify for it. And I just don't see, I don't see where that would really help in this scenario to do that and then have to do it every 2 years. I just don't see that it's beneficial for the city myself. And I think we should wait until it becomes a critical shortage. If we don't get anybody that's a good candidate from when we go out to bid for the city manager. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Well, what I do like about the idea, and I will say this, is the opportunity to recruit from the state, maybe some more qualified individuals from the state, having Home Means Nevada be part of who they are, and maybe wanting to stay here a little bit longer. That is what I do like. I agree. I did see that it was school teachers mostly. My dad himself, as a math teacher, went back and did this because they needed him. So that's, I do see that. But what I ask myself is, how would this benefit us and how would this hurt us? I only see that it would possibly benefit us in that maybe someone who was retired and or capable of doing this and had 5 to 8 more years they might want to give, which is 3 to 5 more years than we've been getting, to us, could and had experience already within the state that has retired, could come here. Hurt us is a little extra time just every 2 years. Am I correct in stating that it's a critical shortage again?
The designation is 2 years, and so yes, if the position's designated, in order for a person who is a PERS recipient to continue serving, it has to be redesignated.
Do you see any other disadvantages to this for us?
It's not my role to discuss the advantages and disadvantages. This is really council's decision under the statute. It really gives the body the discretion and determination to weigh the criteria, determine whether a critical shortage exists.
Thank you. As I look at this, I'm reading NRS and it says extreme need. And we don't have a city manager as an extreme need as listed under those that are currently a critical labor shortage. And I think we're in the process of opening this up, and there is nobody in the state of Nevada that's not allowed to apply for this, whether it's extreme or not. I'm thinking of the political optics, I'll call it. So the political optics of somebody who retires from a substantial salary and PERS gives them 80% or whatever after 20 years, and then they tack on what we normally would do for a city manager. You now have a political optic of what we call double dipping, and the politics of it are not wise. And that's a politician's view of, yes, we have a need. No, it's not extreme. Yes, we're doing something to find a new city manager. So I think this, at this point, is premature, but yet is certainly in our tool bag that we can use at some other time if we need to.
Mayor, I just want to let you know that Councilmember Fox would like to weigh in.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Tammy. Yeah, my initial thought was, are we in a critical labor shortage for this position? But, looking into it more and reading and everything, I think it would be a good idea to open this up because, it could bring in better candidates with proven track records. Maybe this person will stay a lot longer. Maybe they'll stay as long as they can and then retire again, rather than someone young and just trying to get experience under his belt and then jump into another town, a bigger town. So I do like the idea of bringing this to the table.
Any other comments or discussion?
I just want to say, I don't think it's critical. I don't think we're at that point. And listening to what you had to say about the double dipping, that does make a lot of sense. Didn't think about it that way. I just thought we're not at a critical shortage by any means. We haven't even started the process. So that's where I see. And I think, like you said, it's in the state of Nevada, you can apply for the job. I don't know, maybe you don't get PERS. I don't know enough about PERS. I've never been in the government position, but do they not get, can somebody answer that question? Do they not get any?
Essentially, if someone is drawing PERS right now as a PERS retiree, they could absolutely apply, but if they cannot accept more than 20 hours a week employment without giving up their PERS pension.
Okay.
They would have to, they can't draw the PERS and also receive employment in the Nevada public PERS sector.
Unless it's a critical labor shortage.
That's correct.
Okay. And at that point in time, it could be. No.
If I might add, and I don't want to, I read my whole spiel, so I think the numbers from the prior agenda, or number 11, if the math that you did, I think lets us know we were on the cusp of the shortage before Taylor left. And it's not the fact that there's not 92 applicants, it's that the right fit for Boulder City that will stay. That's critical. Because the average is less than 4 years. And we find ourselves with interims constantly in the last 12 years. To me, that says we got an issue. And it's a critical issue. Finding the right city manager is critical. And finding the right applicant who will stay is critical to Boulder City. Finding the right person who has experience and background, who knows how to manage department heads, who knows how to lead, who has established themselves within the state, and who we can find out a lot about just by making a few simple phone calls or having already interacted with them, might prove critically valuable. I don't want to get stuck on, it's not critical because we're starting an application process. I think it's already critical. And I think this opens up the application process for us to get the best fit for Boulder City for the longest period of time possible. I think that's critical for us. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Other comments?
If we did, open this up, doesn't mean we have to hire him. We could go with somebody else.
Just apply.
But I believe it's a good idea. Let's get those, extra candidates in that have got proven track record.
Councilman Walton, I have just one question. So if you were going to do this, why not add on, like the building inspector and the people that were having trouble finding, add them on to the critical shortage? I could see that because we have so many openings in the city that we've had trouble filling. Why would we just do one? Or is that a possibility of coming back and doing the others?
Well, you make a great point, and I think it validates the point I'm trying to make for city manager. But that's, I think, a conversation for another day. I think the most critical position that we have right now that we need to be focused on is city manager. I think, well, there's the opportunity to have further discussions about the fact that small communities are on the back foot for all their recruiting.
Truly.
Right? Because here's a disadvantage, and the mayor's right, nobody's prohibited within the state from applying. But we have seen through all these openings, it's highly unlikely somebody's going to leave from a low position in another entity where they're already making more money than the highest position here. And therefore, we basically don't have access to local talent because they're just not going to leave where they're at. It comes down to a matter of dollars and cents for nearly 100% of the people. And again, yeah, I don't disagree, Mr. Mayor, that people will take exception with the concept of double dipping. But the person is working for us. And again, if we want to use the concept of double dipping, we have employees currently working for us who are receiving retirement benefits from other states. They're double dipping. We're just not having local talent. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing, and by no means am I casting aspersion on those employees in Boulder City who have come from out of state or who are collecting a retirement in addition to their salary. I don't mean to make that comment in the least. I'm just pointing out the fact that it already exists. And we're just now potentially having a little liability, if you will, optics liability, that they're receiving a Nevada pension instead of a pension from some other state. Or they're already vested in the other state they were in, and now they're seeking to be vested here. And a lot of folks that come from out of state will comment, I'm staying at least 5 years because that's when I'm vested in PERS. And then every year after that is a bonus for us. Depending on the number of years they had vested in their prior location out of state. I think, again, everything to gain, nothing to lose. And as Matt pointed out, as I commented earlier, all I'm suggesting is we open up the applicant pool. It doesn't require us to receive them as an applicant if they're not qualified. It doesn't require us to hire them. It just gives us the chance to look at local talent. That's it. So I think the benefit to the citizens of Boulder City, to the community of Boulder City, exists with declaring this. I don't know that by whatever definition you want to choose, you could call anything critical, but the position of city manager is critical. And the fact that over 12 years, we've had 3 and multiple months, and I'm not sure how long those months would lead up to. I don't know how many Michael did last time and how many he'll ultimately do this time, but it's probably a year or so. And the last one, so the fact that we are on basically a revolving door with interims is critical for Boulder City. I think it's a problem. And I think this is one way we could constructively address it. But again, if we don't, on we go. You know, we recruit the best we can. And I don't know that we'll be behind the curve if we don't accept it as a designated, but you know, it's something worth discussing, I think. So, whatever.
Can I ask a question?
Let's share you.
I think in this discussion, something that's come to my forefront of my mind is the fact that here in Boulder City, when we hire, the market that usually takes from us, wherever it is, whether it be the fire or, you know, even police or whatever, they end up going into town which makes us either have to wage-wise be as in common with them, which is hard for us as a small city to be able to pay that high of wages, or have some reason that they want to be here and not want to move on. So when we go to recruit, when we recruit young, clearly they're willing to come take a lower rate, pay range, because they're just starting out, or they've got to get their foot in the door somehow. And so, but that also means they're just getting a foot in the door. And the minute their foot has gotten in that door, they're trying to get in every other door too and leave. So one of the things that I see this being a benefit, I really do, is the possibility. There's not even, maybe no one will apply, right, from the state that has anything like this, but the possibility of getting some experience that doesn't want to leave and is willing, because they're not feeding a family or they're not just starting out, to be able to be paid not as much as we would have to pay to recruit and keep someone that didn't want to go somewhere else.
My question's for Brittany. So legally, because I'm not an attorney, so my definition is not critical, but are we in trouble by saying it's critical when it's not critical? I mean, what does the law say in here?
Yeah.
Are we going to be okay if we?
Well, so the statute gives the governing body, depending on which position it is, there are several different governing bodies. For a local government, like the city, it'd be the city council, the discretion and authority to designate the positions for which there are critical labor shortages. The statute requires that the governing body make certain findings when there are to determine a critical labor shortage. The findings must be based on the criteria that's set forth in statute. Those criteria are the history and rate of turnover for the position, the number of openings for the position, and number of qualified candidates for those openings after all other efforts of recruitment have been exhausted, the length of time the position has been vacant, the difficulty in filling the position due to special circumstances, including without limitation special educational or experience requirements for the position, and the history and success of the efforts to recruit for the position, including without limitation advertising, recruitment outside of the state, and all other efforts made. Additionally, the statute provides that before making a designation, the designating authority shall consider all efforts made by the applicable employer to fill the position through other means. So once the governing body makes written findings, it then submits those to PERS, and they have to be made in a public meeting. And so essentially, those findings are made, submitted to PERS, and the position is designated. PERS does not second guess or evaluate the city council's decision or findings. The statute gives the council that authority, just requires those criteria. There has to be findings made on each.
So in your opinion, you just said several things that we haven't done, but we still can do it, is what you're saying, and it's okay.
I'm saying that the city council is given the authority under the statute.
Okay.
They just have to make findings with respect to each criteria. And those have to be in writing. And that's the process.
Okay, to each one of those or just one?
To each criteria, there has to be a written finding.
Okay.
I think it's important to go with that description that there is no requirement to be deficient in any number of those. We just make a statement on finding based on those. So we could say our recruitment efforts in the history of this have not been adequate, and our turnover has been whatever it's been, and therefore we feel XYZ, and make a comment on the other A through E items that remain and submit it to PERS. And as our city attorney said, they give it the designation. They don't, fall back and have their attorneys review it and say, oh no, you messed up here. Oh no, you can't do that. We have that latitude to do so.
Thank you.
The things that come out to me when I look at the statute, these are words that are in the statute. After all other efforts of recruitment have been exhausted. And in the other line, including without limitation advertising recruitment outside of this state and all other efforts made. So I read the statute as we have to do that before we can do defining a critical labor shortage for that position or whatever position it is. And we are doing that by doing what we just finished. We're starting to be able to qualify to do what you're talking about, but we do not qualify now to make this a critical labor shortage for the city manager because we haven't finished doing our due diligence.
I would say we have done it for 12 years.
Any other discussion?
So it doesn't have to be specific just to this one. It can be over the length of the position, the experience, like the history of the position. So is that, yes?
It says the history and rate of turnover for the position, number of openings for the position, and number of qualified candidates for those openings. So it does seem to discuss multi-years.
Okay.
So
thank you.
So the statute doesn't use the word or, it's and. So you have to meet each and every one of those things in statute in order to be able to say, we tried, we did it, we looked at it, and it isn't, yes, we have a history of a rate of turnover, but then there's an and then there's an and the ands are what limit us to be able to not do a critical labor shortage at this time because we haven't finished our work.
I think you're making a legal interpretation that is not consistent with what has been done throughout the state for 355 positions.
We're not talking about all those positions, we're talking about city manager.
I don't disagree with you, but we have done that for 12 years, and I don't know that, again, PERS gives us the latitude. And while we do need to comply with statutory requirements, they still give us that latitude. And again, they don't require that we're deficient in every single item of A through E. We can say we've had this rate of turnover and the history is this and the number of city managers is that, and we're entering a recruitment, but we are going to declare a critical labor shortage so we can open up our applicant pool. PERS isn't going to throw it back at us. And I don't believe, and I don't believe our city attorney believes, and I can't put words in her mouth, but I'd like to hear if she does believe that we are violating the statute if we declare a critical labor shortage.
So we're not violating any statute right now. The written findings made by the designating authority, not PERS, but us, must include A, B, C, D, E, F, must include each and every one of those, not or.
Findings, not a statement of deficiency.
So I will be happy to take a motion and see where it goes.
Point of clarification, is it findings in each of these or findings that are inclusive of each of these?
There has to be findings for each factor. There has to be findings for the history and rate of turnover for the position. There has to be findings for the number of openings for the position and the number of qualified candidates for those openings after all their efforts have been exhausted. There has to be findings for the length of time the position's been vacant. There has to be findings for the difficulty in filling the position due to special circumstances. And there has to be findings for the history and success of the efforts to recruit for the position, including recruitment out of state and all other efforts made. So for each factor, there has to be findings.
Through E.
Yeah,
So will you
listing,
define findings for me?
for example, history and rate of turnover for the position. We have in here, since Vicki Mays retired in 2012, there's been 3 city managers and 3 acting city managers. Number of openings for the position, 3. Number of qualified candidates. During the 2012 recruitment, 47 applications were submitted. During the 2017 recruitment, 35 applications were submitted. And during the 2021 recruitment, 92 applications were submitted. The length of time the position's been vacant, about 2 months, or May, June, July, 2 months. The difficulty in filling the position due to special circumstances, including special educational or experience requirements. The position has been filled routinely after each recruitment. For E, the history and success of the efforts to recruit for the position, including limitation. Again, that would be council's finding for the history and success of recruitment. That we have hired people, but the council's findings to discuss the history and success of that. So it's council has to make findings for each factor.
Is a finding a statement of fact?
A finding is what council finds. You are the finder, so it's what council states, yes. It's just
Right,
what
but
council
basically
states.
we find that, just answer each one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And we can be deficient in some and not deficient in others, as we might say deficient.
Yeah, council just has to make findings with each one.
Thank you.
And they don't have to be a deficiency?
It's council's determination on.
If there's a deficiency or
That's
not.
correct.
So we make up a little story and say it's deficient and that's good?
It's, the statute gives the body the authority to designate this, right? So it's not like you're petitioning to a court or petitioning to PERS to designate this position. It's your authority.
So I guess I'm having a little insight here with the taking number 11 before number 10, for instance. In number 11, we started a search and we haven't finished it yet. So we haven't exhausted our recruitment efforts because we just started it. And so that finding, we have to admit to ourselves we haven't finished. We haven't, after all other efforts, we haven't done that. Because we've already just said we have efforts that we've said tonight that we're doing, and we haven't finished them. So even if we say, oh, we changed our mind, we haven't changed our mind. Yes.
So one of the concerns that comes up for me, though, is if every 2 to 3 years our efforts include $30,000 to $50,000 to find another applicant, I do think that that's a problem for a city our size to continuously be outlaying large amounts of money to find candidates for a position that they're not going to stay in for a very long time, in my opinion. And there are no guarantees, as we looked at these contracts before, stating that they would. And I know there's no guarantee anywhere. I just think increasing the candidate pool of individuals that, first off, have experience, willing to come to a small community with a small community paycheck, that's affordable for us, and not continuously having to go out and recruit at $30,000 to $50,000 a pop. every 2 years, and then having Michael Mays do double duty every 2 years, forever long he stays here. So that's kind of what I see, because this is his second rodeo so far.
I will gladly concede that if I were in PERS and I retired with a PERS of $150,000 at 80% of what my salary was, and if I retired at $150,000 a year and I picked up a city manager's salary and was making $300,000 to $400,000 a year, it would open up the field, because that's a huge incentive to keep your PERS and get paid. And while you're getting paid, you're also increasing the PERS that you're going to get later on with your top three. So, I mean, I can see the fact that it would be very attractive for somebody who is under PERS to almost double their salary as soon as they took a job as a city manager for Boulder City. I concede that. I don't think it's right.
No, I'd rather it go to someone in state.
I personally feel like I don't want to make up a story about each one of those items when we haven't even done the first one yet. So for me, that's hard for me to say, yeah, let's just go ahead and tell a little fable and maybe this person will come along. But I think we just started, we're just going to award a contract with this WBCP and start the process. To me, I think we should at least give it a month before we go to critical, and then we could say, yeah, they can't find anybody. But that, because what you're saying is we'd have to have our HR department open the door up for people.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Well, how are you going to get the word out there?
We put that, well, I don't know how we get the word out there. We have to work with staff still. The only question we're talking about is whether or not we want to do this.
Okay.
And
I'm
I
just
take
uncomfortable
exception to the fact that you're
doing it.
saying I'm suggesting we make a fable.
Well,
There is no.
have we even tried?
Can I finish?
Yes.
There is no requirement for a minimum standard. So we're not saying something that isn't true. For 12 years, we have a history of recruiting, right? And for 12 years, we have a history of city managers leaving what we might say soon, and then we're in an interim position. And then the fact that we're recruiting now doesn't have a whole lot to do with the history that we have. If we didn't have a potentially critical labor shortage, we wouldn't be recruiting right now in the first place. So there isn't the need to make up false statements to make this declared. All she said was findings. All we have to do is say, we have recruited XYZ. We've had this many candidates. We've had this many openings. We're currently recruiting. None of it is
all of those
untrue
questions.
for everyone. Again, there isn't a minimum statement, so I don't suggest by having council discuss this that we make up anything that's untrue or fable. That's not the point of this. We can do it fairly, consistently, honestly, and consistent with the state law, and look at the 355 other positions currently stated, city manager being our concern. But this is not a foreign concept. There are cities over the hill that are doing this exact thing with a variety of positions, not school districts. And so I'm just saying, hey, I think there's value here. I think this could be good for Boulder City. And if council doesn't believe it is, I can live with that.
I'm sorry, I just, in the data that you gave me, I didn't see positions like what you're talking about, but
Well, it's in there.
That's just how I feel. I just feel like we haven't exhausted all of the options that we were asked to do.
Okay.
In the critical shortage. So that's how I feel about it.
And I respect that.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to oppose. Well, this wasn't up for a motion, is it? It's just discussion.
It's just to direct staff. So if there's a desire to explore the critical shortage designation for the city manager and bring back a resolution for those findings, then the city council would so move. If there's not a desire to do that, I don't see a need for a motion. And a desire to do that at this time.
I would like to direct staff to come back with at least the findings for critical shortage so that we can see those findings. Right? So you bring that back as a resolution, right? And then we get to vote on that resolution. So if those findings do not fit in any of our, wheelhouses of what we're comfortable with, then at that time we can oppose it, right?
We need a second to the motion for further discussion.
I'm just saying that's my direction. It's still part of my direction to staff to come back with the findings.
But I think Tammy's trying to understand, is there a motion or is this just a question?
Oh, yeah. No, it's both, actually. So just first off, answer my question that if we did say.
Well, just parliamentary procedure, if there's a motion, there has to be a second.
Okay.
Before there can be more
I move to direct
discussion.
staff to come back with findings for this resolution.
We still have a motion over here with Koki?
No, we don't need a negative motion, only a positive if
All right.
staff wants, if you want staff to be directed.
So I don't have to second Sherry? No.
Somebody does, if they want to discuss.
Can you
I'll
restate
second
the motion?
Sherry.
Okay.
Okay.
Fox seconded, and I just want to be clear on the motion that you're directing staff to bring this matter back to council for council to make the findings, not staff make the findings.
Are we to make the findings?
Yes.
You have to make the findings per
That's
NRS.
yeah.
Then yes.
So can you state the motion?
Direct staff to bring the matter back so that council can make the written findings to be forwarded or to be included in the minutes and provided to PERS. But council has to make the written findings, not staff.
Is there a second?
There's already a second.
Okay. So Matt.
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion.
I don't know how we could do that. Honestly, I don't see the logistics of that, how that would even look.
As I understand it, we've made a motion and it's been seconded to direct staff to come back and allow us, the council, to make the findings.
Correct.
So is, I guess, in the discussion then, is something going to change between now and the time staff brings it back where we will have findings? I mean, what would that even look like?
I think the A and B, C are all pretty objective. They're just factual. The D, difficulty in filling the position due to special circumstances. That's, I think, council should weigh in on that. And then the history and success of efforts to recruit for the position probably need more discussion and input from council because those are more fluid or more within council's
subjective.
Yeah.
The history, but we have a history. We have, however long we want to go back.
Yes, so how,
Subjective, that's very objective.
I mean, perhaps, would you like us to bring you more information on
Would staff
each
be
of
able to
the
bring the historic
factors?
information on recruitment for the position of city manager so that we had that information in front of us? I know that we have some of
This
it is
says
inclusive in
2012.
here, but just a little bit more specific to like how long did we have interim, during that time period too? Like what were the timelines for interim? Because that means that's how long it took us to fill those positions, right?
Well, we do
So
have
it helps
that
us understand the
information
history.
in
Yeah.
there. We just go back to 2012. So if you want us to go back farther than 2012, if you want us to call the recruitment firms and find out how many of the applicants were qualified, I mean, we can do more research and bring that back. If you feel more research is needed, or if you feel that
I just think if it comes back and we're looking at findings, that information will be helpful in being able to discuss and decide whether or not we have findings to be able to move it forward.
Okay. So, okay.
Just for the record, can you include how far back you want staff to research?
12 is, I think 12 is fine, 10 years.
Okay.
The history of 10 years would be good for, in my opinion. Does anyone else have anything else?
Vicki Mays left in 2012 is the pertinent information.
12, okay, Vicki Mays, on.
Okay.
2012.
Yeah, we can bring back that, and then the findings we'll have, we can have council make those findings.
Okay.
At that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Should the motion pass, of course, it's on the floor.
We have a motion. Does everybody understand the motion and the second? And we're not really voting on making this decision for critical labor shortage right now. We're directing staff to come back and bring us more information as vis-a-vis what the qualifications were.
I guess I have a question. What's the timeline? Because if it ultimately is designated and we don't get the time for it to be made, notification during the recruitment process, it's almost pointless. So without a timeline or without a specific, deadline for staff, then for us in a meeting.
If it's pointless, then that means we got our city manager. I mean, that's what it would make.
Well, it means the
pointless.
recruitment might already be done. Not that we've hired somebody, but that the recruitment is already too far down the road to have new applicants.
I mean, we've proved that no matter what they are, we can say, sorry, we're not going to write the contract with you. We've proven that. So do you want to have, what's the feasibility of staff coming back in a month? Or
Yeah, staff can do that. I would keep in mind, so the motion I heard was to bring back the item so that council can make findings. So that I'm hearing that bring you the information, but in a resolution so that we could submit it to PERS after that meeting if council makes those findings. So that's what I'm hearing. I would keep in mind the PERS designation's valid for 2 years from the date of the meeting unless another date is set. So those are the parameters.
Well, and as is, right, didn't we just discuss tonight that you would have the choice, the one that we chose, come back and make a presentation to us initially first anyhow? So they would be coming and making that presentation during that city council meeting at the same time that we would be making these, if we chose to do it.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
First month or first.
So it would, those would all happen simultaneously? Okay.
Yeah, if we can get that done that way, once we do make a decision on a recruiter, they could advertise it if we go forward with it, they could advertise it in their marketing.
Okay.
any other discussion? Everybody feel where they're at? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Nay. Motion passes 3-2. Thank you. And that brings us to
Number 9, right.
regular business number 9.
Thank you, Mayor. For the last several months, the city has been evaluating the potential annexation of approximately 4 acres in the El Dorado Valley along US Highway 95. The next step in that process per state law is to hold a public hearing. And that's what the purpose for tonight. You can see on the screen the location of the property. The property owners have petitioned the city for annexation. So the only purpose for tonight is to hold the public hearing to receive any public comment regarding that annexation. And I can answer any questions.
Any questions? We will open it up for a public hearing. Anyone who would like to come up on this agenda item? And anyone on the phone? 702-589-9629. And no written comments? Okay. See no one in the room, no written comments, no one on the phone. Oh, we do have somebody.
Hi, good afternoon. Hi, I'm John Madrid, and I've got a question about this annexation. I've got a lot of experience. I worked for a title company, I worked for a bank, as a real estate developer, and stuff like that. So I'm familiar with annexations. My question to you is, what is the impact that's going to be on the infrastructure, like sewer, electricity, water, etc., that this 4 acres is going to have on the city? Thank you. Sorry about that.
You can come back.
That's fantastic.
So, my dummy did that. But no, but that's my question is what's the impact on the infrastructure if you add this 4 acres, and then what about either adjacent properties or other properties? Is that going to set a precedence so that if I'm going to bring in my 10 acres or whatever, then guess what? I want sewer, I want water, I want electricity, I want to build, whatever I want to build. I'd like to have an answer for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Phone in 702-589-9629.
There is somebody on the phone.
Okay.
I almost forgot. Public comment. Hello?
Yes.
Public comment, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Karen McManus. Thank you, Mayor Hardy and members of City Council. With regard to the proposed annexation of privately owned land in Clark County located in El Dorado Valley, what can be said other than this violates nearly all the tenets of growth in Boulder City that have served this city so well for decades? This is light years beyond leapfrog growth. This annexation simply shatters the master plan directives that development occur with contiguous development by only developing parcels that are within close proximity to existing development. This property is not only an isolated development, it does not share purposes with existing city-owned and leased land in the area. In fact, the proposed use of the lands is inappropriate for well-established uses in the area. It is privately owned land that the future use has not been well defined. It is proposed to extend city services for water from an existing line that is maintained at the expense of ratepayers in Boulder City. Sewage disposal is planned to be via a septic system, meaning the wastewater will never be recovered for reuse. While the city has been working toward the reuse of existing wastewater, this development has stated plans to never recover wastewater that is produced. The proposal claims that electricity for the property will be provided by a private company, but does not explain how that will be accomplished. The annexation report notes that the city is responsible for utilities to the location that would include electrical service. And how will this benefit the residents of Boulder City? Increased property tax revenue? That is simply laughable when compared to the cost city residents are being exposed to. This request for annexation violates the master plan and serves only to benefit the owners of this land and not the residents of Boulder City. The owners are free to develop the land under the county jurisdiction, and may eventually contribute to the sprawl that is eagerly sought by others, but our residents should not be on the hook for this development. This also looks to be the camel's nose under the tent to blow up growth in El Dorado Valley that will be financed by residents of Boulder City. Is this the beginning of the previously rejected Gateway project? Whatever alleged economic benefits the project may contribute will happen without annexation, if at all. This is not how Boulder City should be controlling growth by encouraging sprawl and further development residents have clearly opposed in the past. Thank you, and I ask that my comments be recorded verbatim in the minutes of the meeting.
Thank you. And anyone else wanting to call in 702-589-9629? Any written comments, Madam City Clerk? Anyone here like to come forward?
Thank you. I didn't think I would come back again, but I want to thank the mayor and also Councilwoman Booth for their discussion on item 10. I do believe that you are correct in being...
So we're on public hearing for number 9.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
But if you sit really close, we're almost to public hearing again.
I got too anxious. I thought it was over with.
All right. Thank you. So we're still on the public hearing on number 9. And 702-589-9629. And nobody on the phone, we will close the public hearing.
Mayor, for clarification, so this will come back before the council for consideration for bill introduction for the annexation on August 13th and consideration of potential annexation on August 27th.
Thank you. Madam City Attorney.
Are we on item 12? I believe so. Item 12? All right, before you is Resolution 7827. This resolution elects to participate in the Kroger settlement agreement negotiated by the Nevada Attorney General in the opioid litigation. As you know, the city is one of hundreds of other jurisdictions currently in litigation with various opioid manufacturers and distributors, and we are a party to the One Nevada Agreement, which allows the city and the state to work together to negotiate settlements that serve everyone's interest according to a preset formula that was previously agreed to. The Nevada Attorney General has negotiated the settlement with Kroger. The city expects to receive $1,600 approximately per year for 11 years from this settlement. Council previously directed that these funds be used in the Recovery Court program that treats substance abuse addicts, including opioid abusers, which is in line with the permissible uses of the funds.
Any questions? Any discussion? I would accept a motion.
Move to approve 7827.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say aye. Did Councilman Fox say aye?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Motion
aye.
passes unanimous. And we will now do public comment.
I'm Judith Hoskins. I hate to say I was on city council before since I was a student. Made that mistake, but I think I'll say it was the heat, okay? Anyway, I was trying to give the mayor a thumbs up and the Councilwoman Booth a thumbs up on, and Sherry also on this discussion on 10. I think it's very important you have to do the findings, but I think everything has to be accurate and factual. And I don't see where you're really gaining much in that, if I read NRS 286.523, you have to bring it back every 2 years. You have to readdress it every 2 years. And I know you can't answer this question. I think that's what it is. But anyway, so I don't really see that you're actually gaining anything in that portion of it. So I thank you very much for looking at this. I really don't like the idea, and I am retired FERS, so, and I've had plenty of chances to go back, but I think it would be nice if we opened it up to someone who might be staying here and making a life here for his family. And we will probably have well, I know now that you're going to go out and recruit. It seems to me like you're jumping the gun to go to 10 and then do the recruiting. So thank you so very much for your consideration and looking at it in depth. And I understand why the city attorney cannot answer some of your questions. She couldn't answer some of mine either because you're supposed to be doing it on your own. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. Anyone else here or on the phone?
Hi, Sharon Newby, and I just also want to comment on number 10 as a PERS retiree. Two things. One, well, and they both have to do with the school system, so it may not even apply here. But we had a lot of people come, young people come, get their experience, and then they left. They stayed 2 or 3 years, and they were gone. They didn't like the heat. They missed their families, so I understand how we might not be able to keep someone here. The other thing is, with a retired person, also, we had retired principals come back and work 1 or 2 years, and then they were gone. So if you are, okay, let's say you worked 25 years. I think that's what it has to be. You're 22, so you're 45. But are you going to work 5 to 8 more years? Maybe, maybe not. Are you going to move your family here from Elko or Yearly or Fernley or Carson City or Reno? I just don't also see, you can try, but I don't see the benefit, and you're going to maybe go through a lot more work, double the work, well, maybe not double the work, but you're going to go through more work with doing number 10 and declaring this critical labor shortage. And I also observed the whole process on where Mr. Tedder and Mr. Mays were, where they went through the process, and it was a great process. I thought it was very well done, and that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And anyone calling 702-589-9629, anyone here in chambers, welcome to come forward. Go ahead.
Go ahead with your public comment. Yes, good evening again. For the record, Fred Volz. Public safety and protection of the most vulnerable and voiceless in our community need to be top priorities of policymakers. Last council meeting's vote on the fancier issue failed to make the material distinction between fancier, largely a for-profit operation that effectively constitutes breeding, and fostering, where concerned individuals choose to take care of extra animals without the expectation of compensation. What was passed needs to be cleaned up to make this important distinction. This past 4th of July, we have again had 2 fireworks sales booths in Boulder City, encouraging illegal explosions that traumatize those with post-traumatic stress disorder, noise-sensitive pets, and present fire and injury hazards. The spike in lost pets caused by the jarring sounds of fireworks explosions at private homes is largely preventable. It does not matter that the sales booths might benefit some cause. Other fundraising need not involve the creation of problems. Consideration should also be given by the city to shift the venue for its community fireworks to the municipal airport, diverting and diminishing the noise and congestion away from residential areas where people and pets must endure the overwhelming noise. As for the voiceless animal residents of our community, caring about their multiple needs continues to be ignored by this council. The first and foremost local subject matter expert on issues of animal care and protection is the city's longtime employee, the Animal Services Supervisor. She has been consistently excluded from any public discussions as to what our animal and human residents need in laws and regulations. Why hasn't this person been regularly consulted and guiding this council concerning our animal residents? There has been no progress on enacting a breeding ordinance while the overpopulation problem grows through backyard breeder activity. The missing ordinance needs to be highly restrictive to minimize unwanted animals for taxpayers, rescues, and nonprofits to shelter and rehome. There has been no progress on enacting a leash law when dogs are in public spaces to prevent animal-on-animal attacks and harm to our human populations. Every other Clark County city has such law. Recent threatened physical threats by clueless off-leash owners need to stop. There is no ordinance requiring universal microchipping of pets. Boulder City has no city-sponsored ongoing trap-neuter release program. Our city also lacks a low or no-cost periodic spay-neuter clinic. Also absent are meaningful animal dumping and animals running at large ordinances with higher financial deterrence and no reductions in civil or criminal penalties. Rather than ignoring the long-standing needs of our city's animal population, let's see some overdue action from this council rather than blithely forgetting about their suffering and exploitation. And while you're taking care of our animal residents, how about a comprehensive water conservation plan from the city for its own use? The golf course's proposal is inadequate and inconsequential after 20 years of drought. And I would ask that these comments be added to the record verbatim. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone here or anyone else on the phone line?
I have written public comments. The first one was submitted by Betty Wilkerson. It is time for emergency cooling stations. Not all of us have the means for comfort and shelter and AC. The expected places have hours and are closed on holidays. The hospital doesn't do it unless you're brought in on a gurney with heat-related illness or dead. The next public comment was submitted by Jennifer Headland. Dear Mayor Hardy and City Council members, I am writing in support of the accessible work group recommendations, which include the following: hire a designated staff person to address community-wide ADA issues, the formation of an accessibility committee, enforcement of handicap parking violations, closed captioning at all public meetings, raise awareness and accessibility issues by enhancing public education and understanding. As the community resource liaison, many of my clients are older adults with mobility issues, vision and hearing disabilities. It is well known that the population in Boulder City is primarily older adults. As often mentioned, it is not if, but when we all will have a level of disability, whether mobility-related, vision loss, and/or hearing deficits. The recommendations presented will improve the quality of life for the residents of Boulder City, while also allowing those with disabilities and who are visiting our beautiful city to enjoy what the city offers. Thank you for taking the time to read this letter and for the wonderful work you are doing. That concludes my written comments.
Thank you. No one else on the phone line? No one else here and no written comments. We'll close public comment. City Council's reports. Councilman Walton, you want to start it off?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Report as far as my committee on the Convention and Visitors Authority. We recently concluded the fiscal year for 2023 entering 24, so we have some data. The bottom line is that Las Vegas, all of the RevPAR is up 11% from the prior year. And We've had, as you know, has been said from here, you know, the Super Bowl, Formula One for the first time. We had the Pac-12 championship, which is no longer the Pac-12 as the way we've known it before. NC2A golf championships out here at our golf course, and have become the sports and entertainment capital of the world. Truly, we have great staff there, and it brings visitors to Boulder City to enjoy the outdoor activities. I had some more thoughts about the visitors. Yeah, the monorail is now making, well, has been for the last 3 years since the Convention and Visitors Authority bought it, has been making money rather than losing. It has been into bankruptcy multiple times over its history, and the Convention Authority staff are doing a great job there. If you're familiar with the Loop system, which is the underground Tesla-driven transportation system in and around the Convention Authority with plans to go to the airport, that's making progress, and it's really unique to, you know, the destination. And as far as our nearest competitor, number 2 in the U.S. is Orlando, which does about 1/4 of the business that Las Vegas does. So we are far and away the most popular and highest producing destination in the nation. And we have wonderful staff there who's working for the board of directors to help make all that happen. And of course, there's a lot of benefits to Boulder City from all of the income that occurs from that, as well as the visitation. And you know, we're on the map for many reasons in Boulder City, and a destination as well as an additional destination to people that come to Las Vegas. So that's my report on my committee. Thank you.
No report as far as committees, don't have those until the next week, but Boulder City was a destination location, the 4th of July, and I just want to give a shout out to all those who make it possible for the parade, for the fireworks. I do tell my dad every year it's his birthday that I arranged those for him and that they were special just for him, but I know that it's not me at all. I just arranged his chair on the lawn so he can watch them. And so thank you to you guys, and thank you to the pilots who did the flyover. And I know that they do that for free, and it's kind of a nice touch that's part of our hometown. So much appreciation, and really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Well, I had a lot of fun in the parade, and I also really enjoyed the flyover with airplanes. Those guys are just amazing that they can get that close and that level. To me, it's just fascinating. So I really enjoyed that. Great day. And also stay cool, and we'll see you in August.
Thank you. Fox?
And I just want to say thank you for everyone that attended and participated in the 4th of July festivities. I think it's no doubt that Boulder City is probably the best in the country when it comes to celebrating 4th of July. That's all for me.
Thank you. I have to say, one of the things that sets us apart perhaps is we are in a wonderful town with wonderful people, and what you saw tonight is a spirited debate, I'll call it, and we still like each other. And I love this council. We get along, and we are able to be appreciative of the talents and abilities that we all have in Boulder City, and the diverse talents and abilities we have, people who give so much in this community. 4th of July, I really appreciated Councilwoman Booth. She gave me a ride that had shade over it, and so I was able to drink my water and not have to go see anybody at a cooling station on a gurney. So yes, thank you all for attending. That is the end of council. We are now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
No, I was waiting for you guys to say, this is our final comments. Yeah, I thought it was attached to still to your agenda.